Happy Thanksgiving week, everybody out there in podcast and video on demand land. This is the Signal 50 podcast with your hosts, Alpha, Bravo, and Delta. Gentlemen, how you liking 2020 so far?
I think Delta's new icon describes everything. A big old dumpster fire. That's what it is.
I would have to agree.
Very nice icon there, Delta. I like it.
I just thought it was apropos. we were coming into Thanksgiving, and normally we all sit around the table and we talk about what we're thankful for and, love and kindness and yada, 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 drinks, all the other good stuff we can get.
Lots of drinks. Lots of drinks this year.
All I keep, when I was thinking about what I'm going to say, when I'm sitting around the Thanksgiving table, I was like, well, at least I survived. And that's the best that I could come up with at this point.
That's all it is. It's an existence.
That's an excellent point. Survival basically, it's like the freaking Hunger Games 2020, right?
Oh yeah,
it's like the Hunger Games for real. It's insanity. I can't believe that this is happening. I can't
was that
believe
other
any of
movie,
this.
The Purge? Was it The Purge?
Yes,
one day a year you could go around and there was no laws. It just seems like every single ridiculous movie I've ever seen.
It's coming to life.
It's coming to life in 2020.
Yeah, so I wish I was able to be Luke Skywalker and use the Force and then force choke anyone that got in my way.
Well, let's just hope it doesn't turn into Red Dawn. The sequel here pretty soon, which is something we'll talk about here in a little while. Exactly. But when truth is stranger than fiction, here comes 2020. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, it's like getting kicked in the balls, over and over again. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yep.
Well, anyhow, guys, welcome to the show, everybody. We're going to freeform it a little bit. We have some things that we want to talk about tonight. There's a lot happening, obviously, in the news. I would have to say that everybody's a little bit fatigued by everything that's going on. I for one, have done my level best. I know it's our job to bring you some commentary on what's going on, but I've got to be honest with you guys. I have done my level best to, with everything that's going on in my personal life and business and all of the things that are going on, I've done my best to just kind of close my eyes a little bit. Otherwise, I would probably lose control.
Well, I'm glad you bring it that way, Alpha. But one of the things I wanted to let everyone know that we are average Americans that are exercising our First Amendment rights.
Well, we still can,
and we're still going to do it if it goes down the rabbit hole, and we're going to do like a super secret, Radio Free America podcast. Anyway,
yeah, we're gonna get a big ass boat, and we're gonna float off the coast with a big antenna, and that's where we're gonna live, right. And we're gonna call it the state of go F yourself,
right?
Yes,
but in terms
I'm not sure we're in the land of the Matrix quite yet to throw back to the movie references, but it's not bad to be prepared. Hey, before we get into the meat and potatoes, though, can I just mention, we got a live audience, we're live streaming, we want to hear from everybody, and even if you're listening to this on the podcast the next day, shoot us an email. We're all on Parler. Our taglines are there. Send us some information. Let us know what we can do. We definitely want to hear from you tonight, though. We want to answer some questions. All right, go ahead, Bravo.
So what I was saying was, back to Alpha's point, I'm not giving up on the president yet. I've been kind of like knee-deep in watching the different videos from different sources that we've been talking about. It's interesting how everyone is kind of like, all right, move on. It's hurting the country. I'm not sure allowing the amount of fraud that I'm hearing. Again, no one's presented this to a court of law, and us average Americans don't have the right to know. It's like that saying in the military. What is it? You don't need to know. What is it? You don't need to know. It's like we don't need to know.
All right.
It's a need to know basis, and you don't need to know.
Thank you.
Right, exactly. Well, Bravo. Bravo, you're getting out a little ahead of over your skis here a little bit. We got some stuff to talk about here.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, the title of tonight's show is COVID rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah.
So COVID rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So everybody lives in the same place, in the same universe here, and we have some overseas listeners too. And a big shout out to those guys. I was chatting on one of the other outlets that I participate on the other night, and a couple of guys that are overseas listeners actually commented, "Hey, we're enjoying the show," because they actually know who I am, which is whatever, neither here nor there. But thanks a lot, guys, for listening. And I want you, if you're listening, send us a note. Tell us what's going on where you live, and we'll compare notes, because I'm pretty sure it can't be any worse than where we live at this point.
Yeah, emails at info@signal50.com. That's info@signal50.com. Drop us a line there. We're also on Parler. I'm at Bravo Golf 5902. We have at Alpha Sierra 288. And at Delta Echo 515. So go ahead and give us a Parler. Join us. Follow along on our page. I'm always following everyone else.
Tag us in a post, because of Signal 50 Podcast. Just search Signal 50 Podcast for channels on either Rumble or on Parler too. So
and we are looking to stay on Parler. We're looking to stick with Rumble, although they don't have a live stream yet. So as soon as they do, we're going to be jumping over to Rumble and doing it there, because I had a tough time just trying to find our page on YouTube. So I'm glad to see there's 5 people out there listening to us. And we got Norfolk, Virginia. Mr. May's back with us. Thank you, sir. And we are all in this together. So maybe we'll find some strength to kind of talk about the stuff that we need to talk about, because people are getting kind of sick of it.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay. Now, I didn't really have any big plans for Thanksgiving this year, but, say I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 1 week a year where, it's the holiday season. You want to let your hair down a little bit, go see some friends and family that you haven't seen in a while, get in a car, take a plane ride, go see grandma, go do these things. You can't do that anymore.
Oh, no. You cannot.
Cannot do that anymore. It's insanity.
Well, you can, okay.
Yeah,
but whatever rule. Well, listen, honestly, if you really wanted to do it, you could have left at the beginning of November, right?
Right.
And you could have gone to some of these states. Pennsylvania comes to mind. They wanted people to wear masks inside their house, so that's good. If you don't actually live in the house, you wear a mask in the house. But you could have left 2 weeks ahead of your scheduled week, Alpha, and you could have quarantined somewhere, whether it was in the basement of wherever house you were going to be at or a hotel or whatever, and then you could have had your week. And then you could have gone back to your state, and I'm pretty sure I know where you live, and in your state, you would have had to quarantine for another 2 weeks before you could go to work. So your 1 week Thanksgiving vacation would have taken you 5 weeks. And that's okay.
That's right.
If you're crazy. That's okay.
Absolutely correct. But here's the rub. You've got these crazy governors out there. Cuomo comes to mind. If travel to New York, you have to have a positive or a negative COVID test 72 hours before you travel. Arrive in New York, quarantine for 3 days in a hotel or wherever you're going to quarantine for 3 days. Then you have to be tested again, and then you have to have a negative COVID test, and then you can go do your thing. And then when you get back to wherever you're from, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks anyways. Now, here's the rub. They want to impose a penalty on people who do this. If you violate the governor's edicts, which are unenforceable and unconstitutional, by the way, but you're going to get tied up in court, and you're going to have a hell of a time disentangling yourself from a legal mess. You're right, and then there's dead right? So yeah, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Like a family of 3 would be $30,000 in fines and up to 45 days in jail between the 3 of you if you're all adults. So how's that grab you?
Well, I would understand if there was a couple of things in play. Number one, if again, I've been saying this on this channel when we started this about a month and a half ago, Alpha. If the COVID zombies are walking around and the bodies are piling up outside of emergency departments across this country,
which they're not.
which they're not, and there's no COVID zombies except the ones that voted for Biden. But in terms of, because, well, we can talk about the numbers later. But there's nothing like that going on. And if I hear another governor that says stay in your house, and then get pictures of him or her sitting in their parties and going on vacation, and all the rules that it goes along the line of rules for thee, not for me, they can go screw themselves.
Yeah, it's the height of hypocrisy. It's the height of hypocrisy. And we've seen this, though. This isn't the first time. It didn't take COVID. We've just turned a blind eye to it.
Right.
Okay, let's be realistic. Those in power have been playing this game. And it's, to be fair, it's on both sides, okay? They've been playing this game where if you keep the populace happy, somewhat happy, and I can go into some ways, probably not this show, but another one, we should talk about how I think the Democratic Party plays modern-day slavery games. You can keep the populace happy or happy-ish with programs and money and whatever, as long as you don't look at what I'm doing, right? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about some of this stuff before, so this is really where hypocrisy really shines bright. And it's not only that. The federal government and the state government, by the way, there's amazing resources there. So granted, if one of us were to, say, travel to New York and not heed the rules there, we could fight it and we would win, but you have to be willing to spend the money to fight it.
Exactly.
And
not everybody
have the money.
Well, nobody has the money to fight the government. Nobody has the money to fight the government. You can sit there and you can say you're a multimillionaire and you're fighting over something small. It's going to cost a significant amount of money to overcome that. The government works with an unlimited budget, with unlimited resources, unlimited lawyers, and unlimited time, and unlimited regulations, and unlimited bureaucracy that you cannot beat. It's too much, and it's become oppressive and overbearing.
Mm-hmm. And there seems to be no end. I mean, are we...
Well, there is an end. There is an end. There's a little glimmer of hope out there. You have, in certain jurisdictions, you've got sheriffs, which are the highest constitutional authority in any given jurisdiction. A sheriff does not answer to anybody but the Constitution. There are only a couple of conditions a governor can remove a sheriff, and that is a criminal conviction or major corruption or malfeasance being proven in court. Okay. These sheriffs out there in these individual districts, because there's a big difference and people don't understand. I have a friend of mine that I work with, and you guys will think this is hilarious. All right, then let's just give an example here. He's a very particular individual who is very regimented, and sometimes for lunch, he likes to go to this certain place, and he went in there and he sat down the other day, and they threw a piece of paper in front of him before they would serve him. They're like, you have to sign right here. You have to sign your name, and you have to give us your phone number for contact tracing. He's like, I'm not signing that. And the manager said, well, you have to sign it. It's the law. And he's like, I'm not signing anything. It's not the law, and you can't make me do it. And he got into a big argument about it, and he got banned for life. So there's a big difference between a mandate and a law. A law or a mandate is enforceable upon a business that is licensed by a municipality or a state through a financial penalty or some other administrative penalty. A law gets enforced upon the populace. It's passed by the legislature. There's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And people don't understand the differences between mandates and laws. And what the governor can do with his powers to write executive orders, which are basically, edicts that are enforceable upon businesses or other outlets that are licensed by the state, not on the civilian populace. It doesn't work that way. And people interpret things wrongly. But the glimmer of hope is that people are starting to push back. Mm-hmm. Good for you. It's about time. Damn it.
Well, did you see in California when Gavin Newsom imposed that absolutely ridiculous 10 o'clock curfew, like COVID stops, COVID stopped. You're good. No COVID. 9:59, 10:01, or 22:01. all of a sudden everybody's getting COVID, right? So 10 p.m., 5 a.m., a curfew, right? Now there's public health law that supports being able to, and it's pretty strong. But that aside, at like 10 o'clock, there was a bunch of people outside, and they were all having a blast, and they were running around. Just to give the old double barrel to Gavin Newsom to say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to sit here and let you. We are Americans. We do have rights, and this needs to stop.
Well, it's interesting. Right now, I'm just kind of playing in the background. I found this crazy video. Basically, if you want to celebrate Thanksgiving and do it safely, because COVID is a, quote, monster threat, you host a virtual Thanksgiving. You have everything online. You plan a dinner at the same time online. And I don't know how you're going to get your turkey and all the fixings to go through the internet. Maybe you can beam them to other people. Have a little get together where everyone's staring at a computer screen. Oh, you want to hug your baby and say hello? Well, there you go. You don't need a mask to use your video camera. Of course, you need your 360-degree camera, which that's pretty straightforward. Or you can get out your virtual headset.
So I'll be honest with you, Bravo and Alpha, for both. I'm all done with the virtual stuff. I'm all done. I one more virtual conference or one more virtual shopping trip or one more virtual happy hour or whatever. Yeah. I'm all done. We're either doing it or we're not doing it. So if I'm going to have happy hour in my house, I'm going to have happy hour in my house. And I'm either going to, I'm not going to sit there and toast my computer screen or my iPad, and say, oh, okay, I'm glad we were able to get together. We did it once. I'll be honest with you. We did a little family happy hour thing, lasted a couple hours, and it was a lot of fun when COVID started. But it's just as much as I'm getting exhausted with all the election stuff, I'm equally exhausted with COVID. If you can't make a choice or a decision based upon your own health needs or the needs of your family members, if you can't wear a mask if you're uncomfortable, if you can't socially... Oh, by the way, talking about socially distant, hang on 1 second when I get done with this rant. So if you can't do that and you can't make those choices on your own, then what the hell are we doing? Seriously, do I need the government to tell me how to live? Because if that's the case, I'll move to Venezuela or China, because that's not the country that we live in. Now, on that note, I was in Walmart today. I don't know why the school...
here we go.
I don't know why the schools in my area are closed. I'll be honest with you. We were asses to elbows in Walmart, up and down the food aisles. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I was actually uncomfortable. That's the other thing. It makes this whole COVID thing.
Dude, whoa,
made me uncomfortable to be around a ton of people.
Yeah, Delta. Walmart on a good day.
Out of control.
Walmart on a good day gives me hives. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Now this whole virtual thing. Let's do a virtual Thanksgiving. I know there's a certain somebody out there would love a virtual turkey to, be able to shut off and go away. Shall remain nameless at this point, but you know who you are. Yeah. But I got to be honest with you. I really made a major mistake. I think we all did. I really should have invested in the Logitech stock before this whole thing went down. I'm just saying.
The cameras.
Just saying.
The microphones.
Cameras,
the cameras.
Yeah.
That's where I went wrong. That's where it all went wrong. Mistakes were made.
Start an investigation.
Mistakes were made. Let's find out who's got Logitech stock.
No, but I it's interesting because the whole premise of Thanksgiving, I mean, it even gets to the point where shopping for the feast is only for small groups now, because there are people that are honestly afraid that the lockdowns are rearing their ugly heads again. And you can throw here's an article from the Annals of Internal Medicine. It's a very technical paper. It gets into all these little. Basically, the premise is masks don't work. Okay, this was done in the one I was discussing the other day. They actually finally published it in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Masks really don't work. People were tested via the whether or not they had the antibodies on board. They were able to pick up their blood. They said, "Oh, you had COVID already," and most of them didn't have symptoms, and everyone got better. So this whole nonsense with the masks and the social distancing and go stick it. I'm done with it myself. Unfortunately, it's not up to me. It's not up to any of us, gentlemen. or our listeners out there to say we've had enough, because people seem to be buying into this hysteria, and that's what it's turning into. It's a hysteria.
Well, it is a hysteria, and on that note, we gotta move along. We've beaten this up, and we've talked about it before. I know Delta's got one more thing to say. I'm gonna say one thing, and then we'll let Delta close this thing off. I've had enough. I've had enough. Enough is enough. These businesses are dying. There are people that are and have been out of work for a long time. How much more damage are we going to do to our economy with something that is 0.05%, 0.05, not 0.5, not 0.50, which would be 50%.
Right.
0.05 of a percentage point fatal for certain groups of individuals over an age with comorbidities in a certain category. And then you hear, well, my friend died of this and he died of COVID. No, he didn't. Anecdotal bullshit.
Anecdotal. This we're showing on the screen, Alpha, is legitimate research. They did the double-blind study. They did the whole 9 yards. It's boring as all hell. I don't encourage anyone who's really not liking statistics to read it. You can if you want. Let me tell you something. It just comes right down to masks don't work. Period. Done. End of story. They're not effective.
So
Delta, your last point?
Thanks. So I know I dropped a couple grenades all in there in a short amount of time. What I really wanted to get across was, and what not only was it highly uncomfortable with that many people in the store today, but I remember, and I was walking. I had my wife and my kids with me, because sometimes you just got to get out of the house, right? So we were walking through, and my wife said, "Well, I don't, I guess COVID only attacks people in schools because they're closed, but certainly not here in the Walmart that we're at." There were so many people there. It made me think, oh, what are we doing? Why is it okay to be in... I was in a Home Depot as well today. All the big box stores are doing fine. The little mom and pop shops, the little restaurants are suffering. Okay?
Yep.
Our kids are suffering because they're unable to go to school, and they're losing out on valuable social skills that they need to get. And it's really just shameful the way folks are using this still as a political blunt instrument. And one seriously last final note, it absolutely, the fact that I gotta believe that Pfizer and Moderna knew prior to the election that their efficacy rates were higher than 90%. Big companies, large companies, make a lot of money off Democrats, and that's my note on COVID.
Well, one last thing. Let me put this out there. All three of us have got a certain amount of experience in the patient care area. We're not going to say any more about that. Let me ask a stupid question. How effective every year is the flu vaccine?
Well, you got to
moving on.
You got to take it, Alpha. Only 50% of the country takes the flu vaccination, and they wonder why you get, 50, 60,000 people die of the flu every year. But it's not the flu. It's pneumonia. It's a heart attack. It's whatever.
Exactly.
They just happen to have had the flu.
But how many times have they missed the strain every time they've put out a vaccine? And this is a proven vaccination. They miss it every other year. They miss the strains, and people get the flu anyways that take the flu shot.
You hit the nail on the head, Alpha. It's a crapshoot. It's a 100% crapshoot.
And
how many different varieties of the influenza virus there are? Hundreds. They pick. Well, we think this one and this one's going to be the biggest culprits. Of
just go to Vegas and bet it all on black. It's the same thing. I mean, and also all the testing rates are going up. Who says that the tests are effective? Moving on. They're not. They're 50%. It's a crapshoot. Okay, yep. We've beaten that up enough. Let's move on to another one of our favorite topics. What's happened to the media?
Oh, Pravda.
They've gone full-blown Pravda. It's full-blown.
Fox. I don't know about Delta. I haven't watched Fox since they started pulling the shenanigans with Arizona. When I saw them turn that state blue, and you had what's his name,
Chris Wallace.
Thank you. Chris Wallace was jumping up and down, and he was, he doesn't like the president. You can hear it. You saw it in his performance on the debate. I said, that's it. I'm done.
So I'm kind of look, and I know there's a lot of places you get. There's a lot of people in the country that like they watch like BBC or they read BBC or the Associated Press news. I mean,
PBS.
There's PBS. There's tons of places
NPR.
you can get your news if you want to get your news. I choose to get it from a more conservative leaning place. I'm not going to lie to you. Am I disappointed? Sure, but I also can't expect. Roger Ailes is dead, right? You can't expect him to be all in on Republicans when they too have to survive, right? What does disappoint me, and I was watching a program today, and somebody was going on a rant about, the media and how they're going to, they've been throwing softballs to Biden, and are they going to take a nap for the next 4 years? And they were saying all this stuff, and I was saying to myself, where do we come from where I have got to rely on the media to do investigative work that I pay federal professionals and local professionals and law enforcement, whatever, to do? If there is a problem, like, for example, the president being in cahoots with Russia, then that's why I have a CIA and an FBI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, CIA is not a law enforcement. Let me just clear that up before somebody clears it up for me. But my point is that we have these investigative tools and arms of the federal government that should be doing it. But yet, a lot of times, those law enforcement agencies don't get the tip until they read it in the Washington Post. What kind of sick... I just realized it turned me on my head, to be honest with you fellas. It made me think to myself, I've got to rely on some, $40,000 a year reporter who's trying to make their way in the world to come up with a story to get my federal law enforcement that my taxes pay for to investigate a crime. Is that the way this is supposed to work? If it is, then I'll shut up.
Well, sometimes it is the way it's supposed to work because, quite honestly, I don't want the CIA and the FBI poking into everyday affairs either. And if a reporter bumps across a story from a source and they do their investigation in it, and then it leads law enforcement to it, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And that's how a lot of things get discovered. As far as I'm concerned, the CIA needs to be neutered anyways. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation needs an enema. That place needs to be cleaned out, cleaned and burned.
This town needs an enema.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Jack Nicholson.
It sure does. But, look, I mean, it's not like it was when we were kids, right? When we were younger. We're all about the same age. And the media was fairly decent back then. And Watergate was broken by the media. Quite honestly, what the Obama administration and they did to the Trump team when they were coming in makes Watergate look like look like a bunch of pikers. But, nobody seems to care about that. But there's no media anymore. I think we're in some kind of really strange age of propaganda now. I'm at a loss. I've got nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's news and then there's opinion, right? We do an opinion show for the most part. We do some news, but for the most part, we're, average people that have opinions, and we want to be able to voice those opinions as long as we can before that right is taken away from us. And I just don't see a lot of news, okay? And Alpha, you mentioned that, back when we were kids, we used to watch CBS, NBC, ABC, right? And they all had their nightly world news show. I don't watch local news because actually it's like amateur hour, to be honest with you. It's really really funny to watch because it's all garbage anyway. So, but I do watch national news and I watch world news because I'm interested in what's happening across the country, okay, and across the world. And what I've noticed is we're getting away from just reporting the news, okay? If you were fair and you were reporting the news, you might not report that Trump is the winner, but you might report that there is a significant amount of fraud across the country, and that at least needs to be looked at. I'm not asking for somebody to overturn the election. Just can we please just tell the facts? Right?
So,
or call yourself an opinion show and go be an opinion. That's where that's the way that I look at this, Alpha. That's where I'm coming from.
Right. So I wanted to bring up El May's comment here. So will we see lots of Trump rallies campaigning in Georgia for Senate runoffs, North Carolina for Laura Trump prepping for 2022, and in 2021 or Trump TV? That's interesting. I don't know. I don't think Trump's given up yet, but let's just pretend for a second that this nightmare continues, and we find that Trump is not able to be successful, or the court shut him down, or it's just all over. I mean, there's some evidence to show that there's some separating in the Trump's campaign team from Sidney Powell. We can get into that a little bit, but I think there's some truth to that. But people are not going to stand by and watch President Trump go away yet. At least I don't see it.
No, and you're correct. They're not. To answer El May's question there, I think we may see Trump rallies for the runoff elections. That's probably true. I saw the same report you did, El, on Lara Trump maybe, and she hasn't actually announced that she's looking at North Carolina for a Senate seat in 2022, although any of them, Don Jr., Eric, Lara, they'd all probably have a fighting chance, and they certainly have enough money to win a congressional or a Senate seat. Trump TV was, I think, was what was going to happen if he didn't win. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, once you're done being president, you still have responsibilities, right? There's still security clearance, security guards, and things like that. I don't see him going and starting his own TV network. I could be wrong. I just doubt it.
And Alpha, you have anything on that from El May's point of view about Trump TV or the Trump kids starting their own little career?
I don't have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. I understand that there's concerns. Mm-hmm. I know that there's concerns with it when a former president goes out and does certain things, and there's security clearance concerns and this concern, mm-hmm. which all seems to be vastly overlooked as long as you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
Well, and you move right down the street from the White House, and you set up your own little White House and your own little shadow government that has been happening for the last 4 years. So let's not forget about that.
Yeah. And Zach's all for private enterprise investigating things in addition to the government. More power to the people. Amen with that. But we need a better balance of Republican reporters.
Totally agree. But you know what? If you're going to be a reporter, report the news. Don't make the news. Right. Report the news. Thank you very much.
Yep. And everyone's just trying to get clicks. I think that's a great point.
Absolutely.
Zach. The 20. I think something else is in this also is the 24-hour news cycle. When you have to fill 24 hours, I mean, we fill an hour, I guess, pretty well. I mean, people do listen to us and download and give us. We haven't heard many comments, so we can be talking to the universe here. But we can talk for an hour. I can't imagine talking for 24 hours, nonstop about the same thing. The same thing's going on with the election, and that I think that it may be done on purpose, or we could discuss that a little bit amongst ourselves. Do they do it on purpose? What's the use of a 24-hour news cycle? I think the days of the half-hour news, like everyone watched the local news, and then Dan Rather or Walter Cronkite, and it was all over with. And you read the newspaper the next day to see the update, and that was it.
So let's put this all into context. Let's put it into context. I hate to bust in here, but I think this needs to be said. Fox News was blowing the doors off of everybody for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Very long time. Very strong following. Very, very good viewership. The podcasts were doing well. All of the news outlets for Fox News and their outlets were doing very, very well. They were killing all of the other outlets so badly. It's unbelievable. And CNN is up for sale, by the way. However, it's important to note the other day, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, the Morning Joe show,
mm-hmm.
They beat Fox News in their time slot.
Matt, people have had it with Fox News, or they really stepped in it, or they had their change of philosophy and they just went the other direction and they said, okay, fine. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to get in the mainstream of this all because, they don't like the quote bad orange man who does a lot of tweeting. And it's like, do people even look at the merits of what's going on and the dark winter that really will come if Biden does get into this? And how about the fact that he stole the damn thing? I cannot believe in my heart of hearts that he won this fair and square. There was some kind of, and that to me bothers me, and I have to explain it to my kids. Well, by the way, no, I guess it does pay to cheat. I just, how do you say something like that? It blows my mind. It absolutely pisses me off, and I'm not willing to give it up until, but everyone's starting to get fatigued and not wanting to keep the fight, and you have people that are distancing themselves from the team. Here's an article from Epic Times talking about how they're moving away from Sidney Powell. Why this? Why is this all of a sudden the middle of everything? Because it's so toxic that they don't want to get into it. It's so bad it's going to rip down the fabrics of the it's like a movie, like War of the Worlds. Like there really is life out there somewhere, and we're all gonna. I don't know. I just don't.
Shh. Don't even say it, man. It's 2020's not over. Anything is likely to happen at this point. So
yeah, you still got about 6 weeks. 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm really pissed that. Yeah, I'm really pissed that Voyager has left our galaxy and is going to talk to strange new people to invite them to our planet at this point. So we've had enough. But yeah, you're right on it. You're right on it, Bravo. We're moving on now. We're going to move into what we call our opinion section. There's some things that we wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. Delta's got a few points he wants to make, and then there's a discussion that we need to have about what's next. Right? What happens? What does this look like? Mm-hmm. Our country, we've survived a lot of things, but what does the next 4 years look like for us? Right?
Are you presuming that all these things don't go very well?
You have to presume that it's not going to go well.
So Plan B, Plan Biden. Ugh.
Well, define not go well, right? You can say that things didn't go well during the Obama years, right?
Oh, they went horribly.
They didn't go well. But we all survived it. We all made it through. We all survived it. So I said this a few shows ago. I said the playbook's already out there. You keep your money. You don't make any big purchases. You just ride the slow wave until you get to a point where you can start, taking some risk again. You just can't afford to take risk in an Obama-Biden administration or a Biden-Harris administration because, the return on investment is not going to be good. So there are smart choices, and I'm not anybody's financial advisor. So if you're listening out there, just remember that. But I can tell you what I did to get through. Some of it was painful, but for the most part, you just kind of manage the way that you spend so that you can roll through the years. You can wait out a president. We've been doing it for years. Clinton, even a little bit of Bush, right? All of Obama, and even people on the other side waited out Trump. I mean, You can do it.
Yeah, as their 401ks expanded to unforeseen heights, and they were fat and happy and sassy. And now they're it was so bad. It was so horrible. I'm so rich. I don't know what to do with all my money. Give me a break. We should just
squander. So the smart people will put that money away.
Well, I'm not talking so much about the financial. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about what you want to talk about here. I think we should get through this first. I mean, we're on it, so let's talk about it. I'm not worried about that. The money part is the small concern, right? Money comes and goes. It's the ebb and the flow of personal money. Everybody's had money, everybody's lost money, everybody's regained money. I mean, it's just the way the world goes. Everything comes in waves and phases, and we ride the tide with any president. What I'm more concerned about is what happens after Joe Biden gets sworn into the White House, which looks like it could definitely happen.
Bite your tongue. I can't look. I see where you're going with this. I just want everyone out there, whoever's listening to us, I'm not giving up hope. Nope. It seems to be fleeting. I get it. But I just want to put that out there as a clarifier.
Listen.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Alpha.
Listen, our predictions before the election, I think that there was some massive problems with the election, and I caveated what I said. If you go back and listen, I think this will all come true unless there's some massive problem with the election or massive voter fraud. I think that did happen. I can't prove it. I think it did. All statistical models go to show that it is a likelihood that there was a massive amount of fraud. Anyhow. Yeah. What I'm talking about is there are people out there that are most definitely talking about a civil war or some sort of revolution or etc. If Joe Biden gets sworn in and later on it is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that this election was fraudulent. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about my 401k. I'm worried about war in the damn streets.
Yeah, but who's going to prove it, Alpha? Because the problem is, unless you do have a investigative media to harken back on what we were talking about before, that's willing to actually investigate it. Now, remember, nobody's going to investigate Biden. They didn't do it with Hunter. They're not going to do it now. So, I agree with you. What happens if we do find out there's massive fraud? Who's going to do that?
Well, I understand
right?
what
because
you're saying.
He's going to bury it. He's going to.
I agree.
Right?
But at a certain point, there's only so much dirt you can shovel. And we're saying in an ideal world, what happens if it is discovered? Okay. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, what happens? I mean, what does that look like?
It gets buried under the rug, just like Obama was with Reverend Wright when he said, "God, the whole way he carried himself." I mean, there was information on a laptop that disappeared. The FBI seemed to have not done anything with this, with his son, and his name was in it there also. And as long as the lamestream media is covering for all these
guys,
dopes, then
I agree with you.
So
But what does it look like?
Here's what happens, Alpha.
It's a mess.
I'm going to tell you what it looks like. Here's what it looks like when it gets uncovered, if it ever gets uncovered. There was actual fraud. The first thing you're going to have to do is tie it to Biden. If you can't tie it to Biden, he stays the president. Okay? If you can, he gets impeached. That's the way the legal system works. If it just happens to be like the Democratic National Convention or a bunch of Clinton and Obama operatives that got together to do that stuff, then those people will have to be held accountable. But if you're asking about what happens to the man at the top, nothing. Unless you can tie it to him.
That's not what I'm concerned about. That's the small concern. The big concern is the public outcry. The big concern is people taking to the streets. And the big concern is, listen, I'm not advocating violence. I am not advocating any kind of violence. That's not our thing. We don't do that. But if there is a group of people in this world that is capable of a massive amount of violence, it would be the kind of people that got shafted in this election. I'm really concerned about it.
I don't share your concern.
Okay.
I think that the folks who are freedom-loving, truly do care about the Constitution, and are conservatives don't just go create violence like we've seen all summer. I don't think we have those. I think we have some of those people, but I just don't think.
I agree with you. We generally speaking,
that's a problem.
Generally speaking, we are a very peaceable people. But what is the catalyst that stimulates the people? Look at my avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We went to war over taxation of a breakfast beverage.
And oppression.
And oppression. Now, you've got a bunch of people that just are going to take office here. They're talking about making lists. They're talking about banning people and shunning people and putting people through Nuremberg-style trials for working for the Trump administration or for supporting President Trump or being conservative. These people are nuts. And people like conservatives that are true patriots are not going to stand for it.
Yeah, but
I'm worried about the reaction. I'm worried about it.
I think they're just a tad misguided, because if you don't think there's been lists out there before, the problem is they got enough stones right now to actually admit the sort of stuff that they're doing. This stuff's been going on for a long time. It really has. So,
well,
my concern is, yes, what happens when you get a Cuomo or an AOC or any of these people that are out there just talking about this stuff that they have been doing behind the scenes and behind closed doors for a really long time. That's the challenge.
I think one of the things, I was listening to what you're saying, Alpha, and I see where you're going with it, but I think there's something else that we don't give enough credit to Americans, especially like us. We're our average patriots that want to see the thing go through. I'm not going to go out and start, roving the streets and it just goes against every grain of my fiber. And I think that's a majority of Americans.
Right.
But I think what you're going to see is what El May is bringing up. I just wanted to kind of go off on this point here. So the amount of speech censorship happening on social media and news sites is the biggest concern for El May. And I agree with you. Although I have to say that because of the preamble I just gave prior to reading your comment, is that Americans are decent people, that they do the right thing. You're going to see people walking away from Facebook, and you're going to see them walking with Twitter. They're already seeing it happen, and they'll come up with alternatives. And the conservatives will do things the right way in terms of getting people to run against those rhinos that didn't stand up to the fraud that was happening to us. And you're going to see people step up and say, I've had enough and I'm going to do something about it. Just like we did in this podcast. We said we had enough. We want to get out there and speak. We can't do it because of what you're mentioning, Alpha, the cancel culture, the way people are always ready to take your job away, take your birthday away, and everything else that goes with it. But in the end, they're gonna be seen as tyrants, and no one's gonna tolerate that. So it's a pendulum that goes in one direction, and goes to another direction, and finds its balance somewhere.
Listen, I agree with everything you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'm in violent agreement with you. Okay. My concern is that the pendulum has swung so far to the left, mm-hmm. and these people they're so far from what this country was founded to be, and I can see them getting carried away, right? Mm-hmm. At some point, there will be a reaction. Mm-hmm. And if this election truly was stolen and 70 or 80 million people were truly disenfranchised, the will of the people was usurped by whomever, for whatever reason, it doesn't make any difference. Mm. You have a problem. You have a powder keg in this country. And I think we all have to admit that. Delta, you're absolutely right. But you have to admit, disenfranchising 80 million people is really a bad idea. And there's going to be a reaction.
I agree.
Okay. So my big thought, and there's a certain individual that I talk with all the time when we have this discussion, and we just, without getting into the minutia and without getting into the detail and just keeping it at a high level, I always say this. What happens when 300,000 armed men show up on the National Mall and say, okay, enough of this shit. We're done with it. Look what you've done. And now it's time to stop. And I understand that there's things that would happen. It doesn't make any difference. What I'm saying is, the what if that does happen? 300,000 armed men show up on the National Mall with their rifles, their
outcome?
Patriots.
So what's the outcome?
I don't know. The point is.
So remember when we fought the Civil War before?
Yep.
Okay, there was a specific outcome, right? Some people wanted slavery, some people did not. Okay, North and South, and we fought a bloody civil war over it. It's a little more complicated than that, but I'll I'm running out of time here. I got about 9 minutes left. I can't do a whole history lesson.
No, we can't.
So you had a bloody war, and we fought the war, and the North won. That's it, right? So I ask you, while I understand that disenfranchising 80 million people, because you're only talking about the people that voted. What about the other people that just sit back and they just hope that we go in the right direction? You disenfranchise that many people and you get enough folks to organize, which is certainly possible, then you could see some sort of civil war. Am I asking for that? No, absolutely not. But
no, this is only to answer your question, for one end, I don't know what the outcome is,
because we conservatives don't do the crap that you've seen all summer. That's why I'm asking the question. Because
you're right.
Tearing down of statues and the burning of cities and the burning of things and the chop zone, Chaz zone, and all that other stuff was for no end. There was no real reason that was done except for anarchy. And the folks on the right don't do that.
Well, I agree with you. The thing I'll say is, it's not to what end. Okay, I don't know what that end is. This is a question that we always ask each other. What if?
I kind of would say that the pendulum would swing not as far to that right, reactionary mode. I will say, however, I think you're prime, Alpha, for a constitutional amendment where the states, now that we have more Republican Senate or state legislatures, or even the people rise up and we have an article, something, I can't remember the convention. You can have a citizen-run constitutional convention, and we make these revisions and we put these changes in, and there are some amendments that come into play because that would be the mode I see it going in. I mean, if you have a runaway government and you have these people talking about lists and you talk about blackballing people and taking away their fundamental rights, that's not going to go very far either. And at least the courts foreseeably are on the right direction.
Look, I hear what you're saying, but that's assuming that you have a lot of faith in what's right in the courts and in the government. And a lot of people, if this election truly was stolen, can't prove it, but if it is proven and this election was stolen, what does that look like? What does that mean?
Well, I said
you're going to have a lot of really pissed off people.
Yeah, and they're all going to vote in 2022. And just to say, I get where you're going with this, Alpha, but let me just clarify this. It's not over yet. and the news will try and divide everyone and conquer, and now you have some distancing going on between Sidney Powell and the official campaign lawyers, and that's all maneuvering, and that maybe have to be done because the information that may be being brought is so bad, so horrendous that it was done in the first place, that and there's some accusations that there are actual governors that that President Trump is trying to get along with nicely, but they may have taken money and it's going to bring him down in the end. Who knows? We are so far removed of all this that we won't know. However, I will say this: we have to let this go. People want to know yesterday about what's going on, and even you saw Tucker Carlson starting to whine and cry and get upset because he didn't get the information. He wanted all the information he wants to know now, and he doesn't have the right to know. It has to be done in a court of law,
right?
And we're not a court of law. We don't need to know.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I bring this whole thing up: the 300,000 armed men showing up on the National Mall.
Mm-hmm.
I bring that up for a reason. There's a culture in this country that you, Delta, and I don't necessarily take part in or believe in or think that's a solution. But there are people out there that do. And there's a lot of talk about it going on right now. And to be honest with you, it scares the ever-living hell out of me. That we are that close as a society to cashing it all in. We're really that close. It's absolutely terrifying. So,
see, Alpha, I have faith that there's enough folks out there like us to put the speed brake on those. Whereas on the other side,
there is no emergency brake.
It's not the same. You don't. Instead of having level-headed people say, maybe taking all your AR-15s up to the National Mall and pointing them at the Lincoln Memorial is not a good idea. Instead of saying that, a lot of people are like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me go get my pitchfork and my this and that. And then they all go out and they all get together and it becomes a giant mess. We got problems on the right. There's problems on the left. I'm not going to pretend that I live in some fantasy land and that's not the truth. But what I do know is that there are enough level-headed people like the three of us that will actually go out there and kind of calm it down instead of joining it and making it worse. So you will have level-headed people out there trying to people are going to be pissed. No doubt about it.
Right.
It's how you exercise that aggravation that really gets you to the end point, and it gets back to what is it? Unless something changes, you can't demand that the president, if he's sworn in, steps down and gives it back to a guy that was. I don't know what that looks like. I mean,
yeah, that's the question, right? That's the question.
That's really where.
Look, you're right. You're right. Listen. We're talking in hypotheticals here, okay? What happens if you have just, we don't know the answer to the question. But what I'm saying is, yes, there are people out there that are level-headed like us, and I hope that there are more of us that are level-headed than not, right? However, you have some people who would consider and are considering a stolen election as the catalyst and the trigger for some kind of a massive reaction to a government that's off the rails. So I'm just putting it out there and just saying we need to think about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You're right.
You're right.
So
because there's a lot of people out there that are just waiting for something. It doesn't matter what the something is. Just give me a reason.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So there's folks out there like that too. So I agree.
And this is a hell of a damn reason. And this is a hell of a reason.
Well,
it's a hell of a reason. So I think we're entering a very dangerous. We're entering a very dangerous time.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, though, if I'm thinking what I'm thinking, that this week we will know more, and on the next show, maybe we'll have another show Wednesday. If not, we'll definitely have one Sunday again. That we'll know a little bit more as whatever filings happen. You have a lot of doubt going on in the state legislatures, especially in Pennsylvania and Michigan. If they don't certify, This goes to the House of Representatives, and the conversation we just had is moot. So that's the whole point of all this.
Let's see what happens this week, fellas.
We'll have to see what happens this week.
Right. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that everything
works out.
Look,
no
matter which way this goes, it just needs whichever way this goes, it's just got to go smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and let me just tie a bow on this round here for a minute. Yes, there's a lot of it may or may not happen, but I want to reassure anybody out there that's listening or listening down the road. We've gotten through this. We've had a lot. We've had some terrible people at the top, presidents and the like, and we've gotten through that as a country. And as long as we keep our wits about us and make smart decisions and do what we can in this conversation very publicly and out loud, then the pieces of democracy and the pieces that make this country great will continue to do so. It doesn't. I hear the words that come out of some of the Congress folks on the left, the squad, and whatever. It takes a lot to make those changes, and I just don't think there's enough people out there that's going to allow that to happen.
Right.
I hope you're right. And on that note, guys, I know there's a section we didn't get to tonight, but we're at our 1 hour mark. We beat it up. I think we all need to have a deep period of reflection over what's happened here. And
you never know. You may have some good news coming out this week too.
We may have some good news coming out this week. And, I'm holding out hope that our election night prediction comes true and there was a massive amount of problems. I don't relish the fact of being that wrong. And I don't think I am. But, on that note, guys, thanks a lot. Great conversation again tonight. Thanks for joining us, everybody out there. Thanks for joining the Signal 50 podcast. Remember to, catch us on your favorite podcast outlet. Visit our website, signal50.com. Let's see, what else are we? Obviously, YouTube and Parler and Rumble.
Yep.
What else? Podbean.
We're also on Apple Podcasts.
That's
please
right.
Check us out.
Right.
Say hello to us if you're here listening to us, and give us a shout out on our Parler page.
Right.
We're not using Twitter.
Send it around
if
you find this.
Yep.
If you find this conversation interesting, send it to your friends.
Yeah, please
hear what they have to say.
Please go to Parler and echo the links that we put up there, if you don't mind. Get it out there. Send it around a little bit. Our listenership has grown up quite a bit
on Rumble.
Not on
YouTube.
Not on YouTube. No, you can't hardly find us on YouTube. We just use this as a vehicle to get us on, get the live stream out. But hey, thanks a lot, everybody. We put the plugs in there. We've got some affiliate plugs coming for some local businesses that Delta's working on. We hope to hear about those guys really soon. Still working it. All right, we're gonna give a plug to good people doing good things. And if you guys have any interesting news stories or any human interest stories out there that make things a little bit better, shoot us an email at
info at signal50.com. Info at signal50.com. Once again, let's put a plug in for our lone affiliate, our standalone, our steadfast affiliate, POF USA, Patriot Ordnance Factory of Chandler, Arizona, makers of the finest AR-15 rifles anywhere in the solar system. I'll go there this time. Fantastic stuff.
Do they make phasers? Can I get a phaser?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't tell Joe Biden.
For the Space Force.
For the Space Force. That's right.
The Space Force, yeah.
You brought a gun into space? Yes, of course. Of course I brought a gun into space. Why not? All I have to say is when the aliens do land and the big ramp comes down, and they land in the front yard, if the big green lizard guy is holding a ray gun in his hand, I'm going to shoot his ass with a buffalo gun and welcome to America. So, going to give you 3 seconds, pal. Anyhow, enough funny, enough comedy. So POF-USA.com, www.pof-usa.com. you never know when you could need an AR-15 rifle. You probably need one sometime soon. So on that note, I'd like to thank our soldiers, sailors, and airmen that protect us 24/7, 365, anywhere you're deployed, especially during the holiday season. Everybody, if you have an opportunity to thank those that are deployed and to send them a care package and send them some well wishes while they're away from their families, it probably would mean a lot to them. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot. So please try to take care of those that are deployed. Remember those that are deployed. Red, remember everyone deployed. Also, our police officers who need all the help they can get, and firefighters and first responders out there fighting the good fight every single day. Some of them don't even take a paycheck. So, this holiday season, if they're doing a boot drive for whatever, drop a couple of bucks in the boot, helps them do some good things for the fire departments. On that note, everybody, eat your Wheaties and say your prayers. We'll see how it goes.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Have a great week. Have a great week.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
You bet. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. Be well, and thanks a lot.